Well, hello there, everyone. My name is Krona. My fun fact for this week is that after this episode ends, I have a lovely 4 hours of grading to do for my TA job, which totally didn't get delayed because I had to write the script. But, it's fine. We're not going to worry about it. I am joined today with the ever-lovely OmaZen from Purdue. OmaZen.
Yeah, hello everyone. As Krona just said, I'm OmaZen, and my fun fact for the week is that I'm a proud owner of now That's What I Call Shrek on CD. It's real, it's in my hands.
Is that just like a Shrek karaoke CD?
Basically, yeah, we got Smash Mouth, we got all the classics. Nothing's missing.
Oh my god. That is a lovely item to hold within your possession.
hmm
So, I don't think I'll be able to top that tonight. But I can try.
This episode of the podcast. So, to give you a brief little rundown of what's going on tonight, we're going to be going over some quick CCA announcements. As always, there's always a lot cooking in the staff rooms and some good stuff we want to share with you. We're then going to be talking about some of the rescheduled regular season matches that occurred within this last week, and putting a cap on the regular season because it's over. Regular season's over, and we're moved on to playoffs in the coming weeks. We then have the absolutely lovely pleasure to interview Drywall and Astracus from Creamed Corn. They're a brand new CCA team competing. They're a brand new team competing in the CCA this season, and are one of the big names there in Division 3 playoffs. And then OmaZen and I will be going over some of the playoff brackets for all the divisions and talking about some interesting matchups and the key players and positions for all those brackets. So let's increase the counter and let's get started with this episode. So OmaZen, take us away with some of the CCA announcements.
Yeah, so to kick off today, we wanted to talk about something that has been kind of requested for a little while and something that has been cooking behind the scenes, and that is merch. Wow, you guys, I know what you guys think about the DeBalls shirt. I'm wearing the DeBalls shirt right now. I keep it on me. We keep that thing on me. Uh, so if you're interested in maybe a DeBalls shirt, or something else. Maybe you want like a CCA bucket hat. Maybe you want a fanny pack. I don't know, more stickers, something like that. We are going to maybe start a CCA merch store in the coming weeks or months or, however long it may take us. We have a Google form that you can all fill out asking for requests or like what you maybe want to see, what you're kind of expecting from a merch store from us. And you can find that in one of our recent announcements, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, we don't really have Oh, you want to pop in on something?
I will. I'll put that in the chat. Give me 1 second.
Oh, great. There we go. Yeah. And yeah, we don't really have a full timeline on stuff just yet. However, just know that this is something we've been wanting to do for a really long time. And if you want to help support the CCA, you want some CCA swag, some funny in-jokes, just some, clean merch, definitely be sure to get your thoughts out there. The final deadline for the survey is actually tonight at midnight EST, so there's only like 3 to 4 hours left. So definitely be sure to get your thoughts out. Yeah.
Indeed. I know that Dama is very excited to see what chaotic options you all are cooking up and want to see merch-wise from us. I know my pick was the CCA booty shorts, which has been a little bit decisive. But nonetheless, we are excited to be pursuing this as a potential option, and we would like your feedback. Moving on, given the fact that it's now the end of the regular season, you're going to see a few of our new iterations of our normal end of the season projects, which include both the all division teams and a map of the CCA at its current points. So both these projects are confirmed to be coming back in some iteration. However, we're still a bit in the beginning phases for reinitiating these projects. So please be on the lookout for further information and pings from the CCA regarding this, getting input from you players and you community members for both of these. Hopefully within the next week. So just keep an eye out for that. OmaZen?
Yeah, we also want to let you all know that we finally have some of our old podcast VODs up. There's only like one or two missing, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, we're in the process of uploading all those still, and from here on out, our hope is to try to get those out a bit more timely as well. So if you want to check back in on episodes 1 through 5 of the CCA podcast, you can view those now on our YouTube. Those include episodes with Krona, naturally, DRF, myself, and Mizuno, and ideally in the future, more CCA staff will be on hand to help out with those as well. So yeah, definitely be sure to check those out when you have time. We've had interviews with a bunch of different CCA teams this season, including Cal State Long Beach Gold from Division 2, Death Roll in Division 3, Splatlanders from Division 4, and VCU Ink Black from Division 1. So yeah, and we're also going to be topping that up with yet another team today. So definitely be sure to stay up to date and check it out.
And what's exciting about all those interviews you just listed is that those are actually still teams in the hunt for the division titles. That's right. All the past podcast episodes, we've only ever talked with a single team that's not made the division playoffs at this point. So a lot of this information we discuss with these teams is very much still relevant. It could still very much still come into play at this stage. If there's a time to binge any of the old podcast episodes, that time is now, as it can really lead to some insightful comments and thoughts about the current playoff brackets and the teams that are competing in them. So,
Yep.
Moving on, now you all get the chance to smell what Frosty's cooking. For those of you who are unaware, Frosty has been cooking up some hot cookbooks for the CCA, and those are ready to be released, as in being released right now, in fact. Releasing at this very moment is Frosty's CCA Tailgating Cookbook. Within these documents, you can find over 20 different recipes from individuals from 9 unique colleges, with a range of different dishes, including the Kraken Mare's pancakes, banana basics bread, and Snow's spicy map list. There's something there for everyone to enjoy.
No.
Additionally, there is a spicy alcoholic drinks menu featuring deep cut and salmon run themed cocktails. We here at the podcast were lucky to get one of our own recipes features, that being pineapple shrimp tacos, only to eat when listening to the podcast. You can find this cookbook in the announcements channel here in the CCA Discord. Thank you to everyone who submitted and helped this project come together. I had the opportunity to talk with Frosty before this, and he said, and I quote, "I want to both hug and strangle everyone at the same time." So take of that what you will. Happy cooking, everyone. And there is, I believe, the announcement. Oh, no, that's Dama. But yes, it's been a pleasure to kind of see this cookbook come to fruition. I know Frosty's been putting a lot of work on this and has been generally very excited. Getting a chance to look at some of the recipes earlier today. They're all really wonderful, and there's some great options for everyone, and it's good to see people from the CCA community coming together here. So I hope you all enjoy the recipes. Fantastic. That gets us through the CCA announcements. Wasn't that just quick and painless, OmaZen?
Yeah, that was pretty quick and painless, I would say. A lot of exciting stuff on the horizon, a lot of exciting stuff cooking, quite literally, if you're getting that cookbook, which you should. I know next week we got Thanksgiving break at most universities in the US, and I am going to be trying out some of those recipes while I'm at home. So definitely give it a shot and check out what's coming up.
I think my favorite I saw from just taking a glance from it earlier was, I believe it was Magma from Wet Cod Empire submitted a sweet salmon bourbon recipe, which looked absolutely wonderful. So I definitely would like to give that a try when I have the time to actually cook for once. But, it's good to see, recipes coming together.
Yeah.
Moving on, let's talk about some reschedules matches that happened during week 6. As you probably all are aware, week 6 is the CCA's reschedule week, which means that there's no dedicated match to be played, and it's just a week for teams to schedule some of the matches that were moved from their normal times in the season to be played, such that all the matches can be completed by the end of this week. So I believe, if I remember correctly, I double checked. There's about 44 matches that needed to be played throughout all of rescheduled week, and I'm happy to say that all those matches have been accounted for, which means that no one had to use the double forfeit clause in the rule set, which is fantastic to hear. So no issues there. There were a few forfeits, I remember correctly, but with 130 teams, there's ought to be a few matches that end up not being able to be played. So with that in mind, that now means that all 320 matches from all divisions in the regular season has been completed, and group standings are finalized at this point. So you can find those within the group page on each of the groups. Yeah, on each of the groups page. So with that also comes the question of stats. And what Hoken has told me is that the stats team is hoping to get all the stats fully loaded onto Hoken's website before Thanksgiving. And if you have any recommendations for additional stats you'd like to see, feel free to send them or any other feedback Hoken's way. You can either use the feedback form built into the website or just make a ticket here in the CCA Discord. He very much wants to thank everyone for all the screenshots this season and for enabling him to do his wonderful, wonderful magic with all the stats that everyone is able to give to him. So look out for a finalized regular season's stat visualization soon-ish. So, yep. So with that, I believe we can go division by division to see the few remaining pivotal matches that occurred. Would you like to start us with Division 6, OmaZen?
Yeah, let's take it away. So, looking at Division 6, we had one match of pretty major note, which was VCU Spirality, who won 4-1 against DePaul. Anarcho-Ciliism. Back in Group 4 in Division 6, we had a pivotal rescheduled match between VCU Spirality and DPU Anarcho-Ciliism. I'm surprised I'm pulling off that name. With the group's second playoff seed on the line. With a dominant performance, VCU Spirality won the set 4-1 and punched their ticket to playoffs. So congrats to them and good luck in the coming weeks. And yeah, they're going to be playing their first big playoffs match pretty soon here as well.
Indeed, yes. I know we'll talk about more later, but that match itself is going to be an absolute wonderful match to see with their opponents. Hint, hint, wink, wink, wait to the end of the episode. Moving on to Division 5, we have perhaps one of my favorite storyline matches of this season occurring, that being Clark Coy sweeping Undertow Dartfish to make it into playoffs from Division 5 Group 2. If you weren't here for the previous episode where I kind of discussed the impact of what this match would have, this was a win-or-die match for both of these teams, having both lost to Crimson Inc. earlier in the season. Additionally, this is heightened by the fact that this was a rematch of a Season 3 Division 4 match where Clark lost to Undertow Dartfish 1-4. As for this actual game that occurred, it featured a fantastic performance from Clark, who absolutely ran up the scoreboard in the second half, with each of the 4 games being played and then winning in dominant fashion. So this has punched Clark's ticket to playoffs for the first time here in Division 5. So congrats to Clark. Long live the tradition of the Worcester Wednesday, and good luck in the coming playoff weeks.
Yeah, congrats to Clark with getting their big victory. I'm going to go ahead and take us on to Division 4 now, where a lot of kind of upsets or just unexpected surprises happened this past couple weeks. So we had 2 pivotal matches this past week that took place in Division 4. And that really just greatly shifted the overall playoffs look for Division 4 in particular. So we had Bash from Purdue. As you all should hopefully know, I am one of the Purdue officers, so I follow our teams pretty closely. And they got a 4-2 win over Calamari Comets. Bash from their Group 1 was able to really pull off an important do-or-die match against Calamari Comets. They also were able to secure a win against Nautical in Week 1, and they lost to Splatlanders in Week 2. Ultimately, though, Bash has been laying low for most of the season until this pretty pivotal match where winning over Nautical and with Nautical losing to Splatlanders, Bash really needed to this match against Calamari Comets to force the head-to-head tiebreaker and pave the way for their playoff run. So very well done from Bash, and I'm sure that we're going to continue to see Purdue to have some great things going on in Division 4. Also notably, Stu, our other Purdue team that's currently making waves in Division 4, was able to get a 4-2 win against Grizz Taco. Again, we saw a lot of kind of similar things that were happening with Bash, where they were kind of laying low for a little while. Nothing, they were doing relatively well, although nothing like that was making too many waves. However, at the very end in this last reschedule week, we were able to kind of overall looking back at the past season, they really didn't. They had a loss against Moravian Cyber Squids in a game 7, and also the Seminole Cephalopods Garnet. And in a recent discussion, we didn't really cover them as much as we would have liked to. But specifically, they really needed to beat Grizz Taco in this last week, and who in particular Grizz Taco lost their 2 past matches. So, spoiler alert, that's what ultimately ended up happening. So, as a result of that, Stu was able to actually barely squeeze into the Div 4 playoffs. So, congrats to them and all their hard work, and we can't wait to see where they go in the future. Yeah. And I'm actually going to go ahead and take us off to Div 3 right now as well. So with some of the discussion of Div 3 from this last week, there actually wasn't as much for us to cover really in our recap. The Doomsday scenario in Group 4 that we were seeing for a while there fizzled out as Grizzco Workers Union won their last match, and Stevens won both of their 2 matches. So looks like we probably won't be seeing a Doomsday until Season 5 at the earliest in Division 3. PSU Lone Rock Sirens had a 4-1 win over Chark Attack. At the other end of the group orderings, PSU Lone Rock Sirens took on Chark Attack with a playoff spot on the line, while they had a rough few middle games. PSU took the match 4-1 and punched their ticket for playoffs. So this result done confirms all of the PSU teams for playoffs of their respective divisions. So congrats to PSU for pulling off a lot of great wins.
Yes, indeed. I'll talk about it later, but PSU being one of the most dominant Splatoon programs here in the scene. So it's good to see Lone Rock Sirens being able to get into playoffs from the Group 1. As I remember, it's been kind of dicey there with a lot of with GMU being the first seed, they got in 4-1, so it was a very competitive division, which we'll just talk about later. Moving on to Division 2. So back into the absolute chaos that is Division 2, Group 2 for one more time. We saw the California Rollers try their luck against the front runner of the group, that being Carne Inxada Fries. 7 is both the number you need for a jackpot and the amount of games this match went to. In a Game 7 match with only a single knockout, and a Game 7 Rainmaker game decided by only 5 points, Carne Inxada Fries confirmed their top seed spot in the group, and California Rollers were sent home. Regardless of the result, California Rollers should hold their heads up high for giving the entirety of Group 2 a run for their money here in these last few weeks of the remaining season, regular season. Historically, as we've kind of discussed in general at this point, Group 2 of Division 2 has always produced the most interesting and complicated results within the regular season, and we're very much happy to hear that this tradition is holding true within Season 4 as well. So congrats, Carne Inxada Fries, and well done to all the other teams there in Group 2. Thank you for making it so interesting to watch and follow. Moving on to Division 1. Division 1 having probably the most interesting week of matches in the 11th hour. Because not only had you had these 2 very pivotal matches, one in each group, but both of these matches went to Game 7s. So you could not ask for a better bit leading up to playoffs here. And let's talk about those now. So in Group 1, you had Red Embers taking on Reef Unleashed Gold. In a contender for what might be one of the top 5 matches of the season, the stream set went the full distance as it was a winner go home for both these teams, with both of these teams fighting for the third spot in Division 1 playoffs from this group. Every single game in this set was decided by 40 points or less, with an average of 17 points per game. 17-point difference per game. It was very dynamic, with Red Embers going down 2-0 before then back going up 3-2 and ultimately winning 4-3. So Taro had a set high of 17 KA in Game 5 using Snipe Rider. So that must have probably been a Splat Zones map. And honestly, you could not ask for a more balanced set and a better performance from both of these teams. So with this victory over Refundlish Gold, Red Embers has punched their playoff ticket with a 2-3 record after tiebreakers, which we've gone through and confirmed is the lowest win-to-loss ratio to ever make playoffs in CCA history. Red Embers being a team that is from a university has competed before, but a very new team of these mid-level players here in the CCA. They made waves during entrance exam 2, and have been kind of thrown to the Sharks here in Division 1. But it's good to see them find their footing here in the back half of the regular season, and to see them shaking them up in Division 1 playoffs. So it's going to be fantastic to watch them face UCSD this week. Don't you think so, OmaZen?
Yeah, we've already seen some interesting action from the UCSD teams earlier this week as well. So just to keep seeing more amazing games is definitely what I would at least like to see.
Indeed. So we'll talk about that playoff bracket later in the show. Hopping over to the other end of the group, let's talk about VCU Ink Black. Off stream at the same time as the Red Embers and Refundlish match, there was yet another winner-go-home set with VCU taking on the Night Sharks. Again, for context, as we've been previously discussing last week's episode, VCU has found themselves in this very unique situation, basically holding the keys for the playoffs for many of the Division 1 Group 2 teams. This was heightened by the fact that they won over Old Bay Brigade in 4-1 in Week 5. So this was the winner-or-go-home set for them as well. So VCU must be really happy with themselves here, because they pulled off what UCSD did to them during Week 1 by completing a 1-3 comeback to steal the set from the Night Sharks. So VCU, who started the season with a 1-2, beat the odds and upset both Old Bay Brigade and the Night Sharks to secure their first Division 1 playoffs spot and run, counting as probably one of the greatest arcs in CCA history, as written here by DRF. We had the lovely pleasure of talking with Lux and Minnie last episode, but right before this set, and they gave us a wonderful interview talking about their place in Division 1 this season and their history here in the CCA. Because for all of you who don't know, VCU Ink Black is probably one of the most successful collegiate teams at this point, both in and out of the CCA. So it's always exciting to watch them grow as players and to hold the collegiate flag wherever they go. So very well done here, VCU. Again, you're keeping it interesting here for us. We're excited to see you take on Division 1 playoffs in the coming weeks. There we go. I cannot believe the regular season almost is over, OmaZen. It feels like just yesterday we started. Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah, I mean, it's 6 weeks of action-packed games and really just everything else. So having it be over already was definitely something I wasn't ready for. I know when I was on my pickup Spoilermaker special, I don't know, in a moment, it felt like we were already at week 5. So to have it be over, it's a little bittersweet, but we do have a really exciting playoffs as well on the horizon to look forward to as well. So still plenty of epic Splatoon action in store for us.
That is very much true. And unfortunately with that means that we are now cutting the CCA pool of teams from 130 teams down to only 46, as the top 2 teams in each group go to playoffs, with the exception of the Division 1 group teams where it's 3. So with that, we just want to thank those 84 teams that are not making playoffs this season for having yet another record-breaking CCA season. We hope it was a very valuable experience for you all, despite whether your results may say so. it is completely natural to feel frustrated and disappointed sometimes with your accomplishments. However, I want to encourage you all to hold your heads up high. Celebrating your progress and growth this season is really crucial, whether that be with your placement in your group, the growth of your programs overall, or the friendships you've cultivated since the start of the season. Yes, it's a very bittersweet moment. However, you should all be proud of the growth and impact you've had on this season as a collective. Moving forward, the best advice we CCA staff can encourage you to do is to keep practicing and playing at a competitive level. It's easy to simply just put the game on the back burner now that there's no active league to participate for you all, and to just pick it back up as season 5 starts to work in the weeks leading up to season 5 here. However, it's the teams that don't let the results hold them down, and the teams that still keep on pushing regardless of the off season, they're the teams that make the most growth. What do you do until the next CCA event we host? Watch playoffs, see what other teams are doing, and learn from what they're doing. And keep practicing and competing the off season. I highly recommend you keep doing scrims, play tournament series around your levels, such as from the Ink up, Little Squid League, Low Ink, or any other external tournaments. The work you put in now will pay off in dividends in the future. So it's really important to just keep moving forward. It's very difficult. There is a very sharp learning curve to all of this. But you will look at your results from the season. If you look at your results from the season and want to do better, keep this in mind and act upon it. So we look forward to seeing all of you next season, and we hopefully can. We look forward to seeing you all next season and seeing how far you've come from this moment onwards. Sorry for the little spiel there, but I feel it's really important to both highlight the teams that didn't make it to playoffs and to give them the tools they need to grow.
Yeah, there
Anything
were a
you
lot
want to
of
include there?
Yeah, I would love to. There were a lot of like really close sets this season. We saw plenty of game sevens. We saw just a lot of really fierce, close matches that really made this particular season of the CCA probably one of the best ones we've had ever, really. A record-breaking number of teams, and just this amazing community that's kind of built up over the past few years. So yeah, thank you all for being here and being a part of this great scene. And we hope to continue to provide amazing tournaments and just this great community for you all into the coming years and whatnot.
Yes. I think one thing that we always kind of forget is that the CCA is first and foremost a collegiate community. Everyone thinks about the results, everyone thinks about the teams that make it far, but just knowing people your age and trying to get into competitive Splatoon and know people like around your skill level too is very crucial and important. Again, the teams that go far are the teams and individuals that put the time in the off season to learn and grow, to interact with their fellow colleagues. Go reach out from a team that you scrimmed against frequently and say, hey, maybe we form a pickup for a tournament or something. Just act upon it, keep your head up high, and you'll go far.
I would absolutely agree.
Ooh, fantastic. Let's move on to discussing some playoff stuff. And with that, let's introduce one of the Division 3 playoff teams. Let me introduce our lovely creamed corn onto the stage. So, many of you might be wondering who exactly creamed corn is. And that's a great question. Hailing from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, creamed corn is the only team from Nebraska playing in this season of the CCA League. This is also coupled with the fact that this is their first season here competing as a team in the CCA. Like many of the new teams this season, they made their debut in Edge Exam 2, where creamed corn went 3-4 during the events. While they did lose 4 of these matches, they did not go down with a fight and pushed a collection of CCA veteran Division 2 and 3 teams to Game 3s, including the likes of Coastal Squid Surf, MSU Camp Juice, WPI Grisco Workers Union, and PSU Lone Rock Sirens. These results landed them into Division 3 for the season, where they have had an impressive first run for a first-time team. Going 4-1 in matches within Group 2, creamed corn has now found themselves as the only new team in Division 3 playoffs. With an upcoming match against the previous season's Division 4 runner-up Death Roll, creamed corn has found themselves placed with the big dogs of Division 3. And still the question remains, how far will these corn shuckers go? So welcome, Cream Corn, to the podcast.
Hello.
So with any introduction I do, I feel like I'm bound to miss or misrepresent something I say. So what exactly did I miss about you? Could you please introduce both of yourselves and tell us a little bit about Creamed Corn?
I am Drywall, the team captain of Cream Corn.
I'm Astericus. I'm one of the subs for Cream Corn.
So something interesting, I guess, about our team is that we're made up almost entirely of freshmen as well.
Oh.
We can talk more about that later, but that was something that really surprised me, I guess. I think we have one sophomore as well, and then one graduate student. So most of us are going to be here for a good long time, I guess.
Well, that's exciting.
You better get used to seeing Cream Corn.
Well, that's exciting to hear. We love to see underclassmen taking the initiative to start these programs for their schools and such. And it's exciting to have your university here and competing in the CCA.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad we get to be the sole Nebraska reps. We are the only thing that this state will ever see in the CCA.
Would it be fair to say you're the only team in general and then start in the entire state of Nebraska?
We can take over the entire state, yeah.
Pretty fair to say, yeah, we're the only Splatoon team in Nebraska. No one else here plays Splatoon.
I mean, it is just fields upon fields of corn, to be completely fair with you all. But, yeah.
I wonder where the theming for our team came from.
Ooh. Don't worry, we'll be going into that later. Don't you worry.
No spoilers, no spoilers.
All right, so yeah, if you don't mind, we're just gonna keep on rolling here. So this is the first time that a University of Nebraska-Lincoln, to be specific, team has ever participated in a CCA event. We wanted to ask if you could tell us a little bit about the Splatoon scene there, and how you were able to form a team for Season 4. So what does it all look like?
So from what I've heard, the competitive Splatoon team here was pretty much non-existent before I showed up. And in high school, I've been wanting to play competitive Splatoon for a while, but I never really had an opportunity to get into it. I went to a rural high school, kind of out in the middle of nowhere, so there wasn't many opportunities for me to play competitive Splatoon. But I said, when I go to college, I'm gonna start a Splatoon team. And I just joined the esports club, asked them hey, can I start a Splatoon team? And they're like, sure. It was really easy. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. So one other question, kind of tagging on a little bit into all that, is that the University of Nebraska-Lincoln is the Huskers, or the Cornhuskers for your mascot, correct? So where does that team name come from if your team name is Creamed Corn? And where does the Creamer Nation come from in particular?
Okay. Well, one of the first things I learned is that the esports team isn't allowed to use Cornhuskers, and that's just because that's for the main sports teams only. And I'm sure it's like that probably at a lot of universities.
Mm-hmm.
So instead we had to come up with something creative. So we noticed that our school's official colors, although it looks like red and white, they're very particular about it being cream and scarlet, or scarlet and cream. So we're like, we should do something with the school colors. Our first ideas were maybe Scarlet Squids or something like that. But then we realized there's already a bunch of other teams with the name Scarlet. So we thought, what if we did something even funnier, or not funnier, but something more unique. Someone suggested something with cream, but you're like, no, cream's a boring color. We would never use that. But then eventually Creamed Corn came up as a joke, and it just kind of stuck. So now we're Creamed Corn.
There was a lot of talk about suggestions for alternate names, but no one could let go of Cream Corn because it's just such an absurd name, and I think we all just kind of latched onto it.
Hey, it has some brand name recognition, and that's pivotal sometimes here. Here we are talking about Creamed Corn.
It's very iconic, I'm aware.
I distinctly remember during the like division announcement stream, we made someone shudder with just our name, and I think that kind of power is really awesome.
Indeed, indeed. Yes, I love to see all the unique team names we have here, and Cream Corn certainly is a name. Um, moving on to talk a little bit about your team, could you talk a little bit more about the comp history of the players on your team? Is this the first time you've all played together as a team in a competitive setting?
Um, yes, this is the first time that we've all played together. I personally have a little bit of experience on a competitive team, but that was just over the summer. I joined a team with a friend for the very first time. And then there was one other person on my team on Creamed Corn who said that they had had some previous experience with competitive play, but everyone else was entirely brand new to like competitive Splatoon. Um, and the way I found them was our like we all have a group story on Snapchat, so I just sort of put out an advertisement. Anyone want to join a Splatoon team? And sure enough, I got like 10 or so responses, and we did some tryouts, and that's how we got the team.
Excellent. It's good to hear newer players getting exposure to the scene, and the CCA is a great place for that. Um,
Yeah, definitely. So, kind of going off of that a bit more. So, creamed corn, it sounds like you did about 10 tryouts. Well, you ended up with 8 players on your roster. Um, and that provides over 70 different combinations of potential teams and just comps and whatnot. So, how does Creamed Corn go about managing all of these players and different weapon comps? And do you make frequent uses of subs during matches? I know we have one right here.
Hello.
Okay, so first things first, I think 8 players might be a bit too many. I came in to like the like I've never really managed a team, barely even played on a competitive Splatoon team before. So I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was like, 8 players, the more the merrier, everyone gets to feel included. And I do think that that's definitely like been an upside to it. It can be a bit hard like managing though, like if we want to get like the entire team together for like a group photo, that's very tough. And deciding like who to sub in sometimes can be like it can be hard because there's like 4 extra people that I can choose from. But we do also have kind of an advantage with variety, I think, because a lot of teams will try to like adapt to what we're doing. They'll see common patterns, and then suddenly we'll just change up the entire team, and they're just like they had no idea how to expect that.
yes, one of the many pitfalls and benefits of having a deep roster is that flexibility. There's a lot you learn with your first time coaching about managing a roster, and some of the issues that expose themselves to such a deep roster. But it's good to see that you're taking with strides and using it to your benefit in some matches.
And another thing, a lot of us, like I said, haven't really had any like much competitive Splatoon experience before. So that was one thing a lot of us had to learn. Just like now that we have a whole team, how can we play differently? How can we adapt? Because now instead of just playing solo anarchy ranked and stuff online, we can actually like point stuff out to our teammates and use that to our advantage to make interesting plays and stuff like that.
I would say
So
there's
that's
probably been. Oh, sorry, God.
no, you go ahead. I've been talking too much.
No worries. You've been doing just fine. But I think it's been interesting to see how the team's progressed as a whole thus far because, as we mentioned, a lot of us are freshmen, a lot of us are new to competitive scene, so it's interesting to see us kind of grow and adapt to being in this new environment. Like, a lot of us went from just being solo queue players to learning how to coordinate specials, coordinate team usage, knowing how to call out certain items. It's very nice to see everyone evolve in this sort of manner from being zero to hero almost, but hero is a bit of a stretch.
Wow. Yeah, so kind of moving forward a little bit, in what is now one of the most iconic moments of season 4, your university newspaper. Yeah, we're bringing this up. Uh-oh, Krona's sharing his screen. Um,
Uh-oh.
actually published an article about the creation of your team and your progress prior to season 4. Please tell us, what is the story behind this newspaper article that is just become infamous.
So I have a friend that writes for them, and he approached me one day. He's like, "Hey, you're starting that Splatoon team. We should do an article about that." And I was like, "Okay, that sounds awesome." So he interviews me and one of the team members, Avery, yeah, and then he publishes the article. I'm like, "Hell yeah, this article is gonna be awesome." And then I see the title. I had no idea he was gonna name it that. We had kind of leaned into the cream jokes a little bit, but to have the entire article named UNL Splatoon team aims to cream all over the competition, that was kind of insane, but it got very popular. So I definitely think it was the right move.
Is it?
Very
I actually saw it.
interesting to see that.
I saw it on Reddit. I believe
Oh,
it was posted
no.
to r/Splatoon, and it got something like 1,000 upvotes there. It was in the hot posts for a few days.
I know it was getting traded and posted on Twitter too, so it was kind of going everywhere. I gotta ask, is it your goal to cream all over the competition? Is that why you're in playoffs right now?
We're gonna match them up.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Watch out, everyone. We're coming for you next.
Oh no.
We're
Div
gonna
1.
cream all over the competition.
It's only
The
up
In our
to
competition
cream
is
our
here.
corn.
Indeed.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was very funny reacting to that article because I think a lot of the staff realized this is one of the first times the CCA has been mentioned in such an article, and it's from creamed corn.
If there was one change I wish I could have made, it would be to like have them add a link to like the CCAs and stuff, so like you guys could get some more recognition as well. Because I'm sure there's a lot of like people out there that don't know the CCA exists that want to start like Splatoon teams and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not mistaken, this is like the first time the CCA has been mentioned in a newspaper article or something, too.
Yes.
So like this is the beginning. This is the
Indeed.
bottom, if you will.
Well,
I'm very proud that creamed corn could be the catalyst for that.
Thank you. No, there's no better start we could have possibly had, honestly. Thank you.
I feel genuinely horrified for anyone who saw this article completely out of context. I wonder what the kids are up to nowadays.
Context doesn't even make it better. Context does not make it better.
It was a very interesting article, and it's good to see that some of these universities are starting to be more showy with the teams they've had. An ongoing discussion we've had, of course, across the CCA's history is university representation of teams, and kind of like you said earlier with the naming of your teams, that some teams, some universities like to disassociate from the teams, while others more embrace them. And it's good to see that you're starting off with a really good foot with your university kind of backing you as players and the team there. So it's really good to see such an article.
I don't even know how much like university backing we have. That is a student-run newspaper, and I had a friend that wrote that article. So I wouldn't say it's quite like wholly university backed, but yeah, it is very good to like get the word out about like the esports teams in general, and especially Splatoon.
Yes, having any foot in the door in those conversations is always fantastic. Moving a bit away from your identity at your university, let's talk about your identity here in the CCA. One of my favorite topics within the collegiate community is the connections that form between different universities and teams throughout the competitive season. Whether it's simply rooting and supporting each other or being friendly scrim partners, it's always exciting to me to see which teams interact with who and the relationships they form. So given that Cream and Corn's status as a very new team here in the CCA this season, you started the season without many connections to any of the other collegiate teams or programs. And at this point, which teams would you say have been your closest allies? Who have you been scrimming with? Who have you been practicing with? Who have you been talking with?
So we've played a few scrims so far. I think we played against I think we played against the Bumblebee Gobies, and then Chark Attack during some of our scrims, and then also the Lone Rock Sirens. And they were all super cool, super nice. But if I'm being honest, it's been a bit like intimidating, like doing scrims and stuff. because I personally am not that much of a competitive person. I just love Splatoon. So being in this competitive context, it kind of makes me feel intimidated talking to some of these people, even though they're like all super nice, some of the nicest people I've ever met. It can still just kind of feel that way, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then also another team that we've really gotten along with is Titans of Alterna, who we lost our first game to. They were all super nice as well. I hope we can do some more scrims with them in the future. Because those were some super fun games that we played against them.
Indeed. It's good to hear that you're starting to form some of those relationships with like North Carolina, Greensburg, GSU, again, as a common element through many of our episodes being a very established program. It's difficult to start approaching them, but the more you kind of get your name out, the more you interact with these people and be friends and such, it's builds good relationships. And yeah, so it's good.
I really do want to.
Go ahead.
I really do want to get like more involved in the community though. It's just like, yeah, I'm a bit intimidated, but that's just a me thing. That's something I got to get over.
It comes with time, from what you've said so far, I'm sure this has been kind of a bit of an overwhelming season with so much on your plate, with having to manage both your own team, your own players, and your involvement here in the CCA. So, it's completely fine to be that way, and it just takes time. I know I'm a broken record at this point, but still. Yes. Moving on, OmaZen, would you like to cover a little bit of the regular season?
Yeah, we can go on and hop on into that. Yeah. Yeah, so a recap of the current season so far. Recapping a bit of your regular season, your first two matches of this season were against the Tax Collectors and Redbeak Splatoon. Creamed Corn was about to win both of these matches, however, you were still pushed to a game 7 and 6 respectively. Talk us through your heads during the beginning of the regular season. Did it take some time for Creamed Corn to find their footing? And what did you learn from these first few matches that have helped you grow and improve since?
It definitely took some time. We had to like learn how we all played so we could get our teams like set, who plays well together, what weapons do we all play. And being placed in Division 3 so early on definitely surprised all of us. We had no clue what Division 3 was even going to be like. All we knew was like that's kind of a high number. So we were all very scared going into our first game. And I think in our first match against Tax Collectors, at one point we were down 3, or we were down 2, I think. They had it was match point for like games 5 through 7, and we were just on the edges of our seats the entire time. It was very, very close. And honestly, if we hadn't won that, I don't know, like it might have just ruined our like momentum. But like it was definitely like tough trying to get things started. I had really like no clue what I was doing, like I like talking before earlier. And yeah, those first games were very tough.
They were really scary. I was well, not just I, but as Asher mentioned, all of us were kind of on the edge of our seat. But it was pretty interesting to see how experimental some of the earlier matches against Red Beak were and Tax Collectors, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I remember it was a lot more interesting than just playing a normal game of solo queue that much. I could see, but it was really fun seeing how everyone played around, and the stress of actually getting to win those matches really hyped me up to continue playing the games.
Yes. One question I wanted to impromptu say here is, how did you prepare for the season? Like, you played in entrance exam 2. Did you have any exposure to competitive before that, or between entrance exam 2 and the season?
So like I said, I played like a little bit over the summer. I think I played in August low ink.
Mm-hmm.
And that, or no, it was July low ink, and that was it. That was my entire competitive experience. No one else had any competitive experience. Entrix exam was our very first time ever playing in a coordinated environment, like all together, and also for a lot of people, it was their first time playing competitive Splatoon, like in general.
I see. Yeah, no, it's good to hear that things went smoothly and you found your footing. And again, I mean, you found your footing. You won your first 4 matches in regular season. only faltering to Titans of Alterna there in that reschedule week. Talking about that game specifically, tell us a little bit more about this match specifically from your perspectives. And, would you say that Cream Corn was at the top of your game, or was kind of this stress and weight of the situation, having to face the only other undefeated team at the time kind of weighing on you for that match?
I think stress was definitely an aspect of it because some of our team members, I could definitely tell were feeling the stress from like it being such a monumental match. I guess like, could we win all five? But another thing was also the scheduling for that match was kind of weird because our schedules, Titans of Alterna and Cream Corn, our schedules just didn't really align very well. So we were down a few players as well. Um, so we usually play like playing our games like on weekends, but weekends would not work for Titans, so we had to do it on a Friday. So some of our players were not there, and I feel like that might have had something to do with it. It was still like a very good game. We still were playing like pretty like very well, like almost at our like top. But and would we have won with like those extra players there? I don't know, but it was definitely like very tense and very good games.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to.
Hey, that's all you can. Go
Oh,
ahead. Sorry,
yeah,
OmaZen.
sorry. Yeah, I wanted to follow up really quick. Have you guys ever found yourselves in a situation where you had to do like a complete team comp swap? Like, hey, we want the other four to be in instead.
Um, Not generally because there is um like a bit of a skill gradient
Hmm.
on the team. Usually we try to have like I guess like the players that work best for the situations and also like uh well usually I want people to play on the weapons they're most confident with as well. So it kind of depends like on the maps, modes, and also just like who's in attendance that day. We've never done a full team swap, but we have definitely done matches where like we substitute like maybe two people in for a game, which is really cool because like it does like lend to that sort of variety thing. Like we just show up with two more weapons that they haven't seen us play before,
Oh,
two new
definitely.
players, and they don't know any of their patterns.
I guess like how I was kind of mentally approaching that is like you could be like, wow, okay, new team, let's see how they take it, right? You're technically still the same team, still the same set, but I don't know. It's just really fascinating to me. But yeah, good work.
There are definitely like a few consistent players on the team each
Hmm.
time. Kind of like people that carry almost, and not carry, but just like are really solid picks for almost any situation. So that's who we generally have in first, and then we have more people just like with more situational niche weapons that can fill in the gaps.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I definitely would. I think we should try to go a little bit deeper into that, or at least I'd love to talk with you at some other point about like what goes into all that. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, but kind of going into Div 3 playoffs, right, Krona? Are we talking about that
Oh,
just yet?
yes,
Yeah,
no.
okay, yeah, we're already
Go
there.
ahead,
It's just
lead
like
the
the
charge.
actual season. It's over in a minute. Um, so regardless of your results to Titans of Alterna, you swept the other teams in your group, meaning that you are the second seed team from Group 2 in the Division 3 playoffs. And in case you didn't know, you are also, as we previously mentioned, the only all-new team to make Division 3 playoffs. How does it feel to be the newcomer in a sea of veteran teams for these playoffs? And did you expect to be a playoff team in your first season?
It feels very strange. um, it's kind of like almost like imposter syndrome. Like,
Oh
do I
yeah.
belong here? Like, how are we doing this on our very first time? And like, I don't really know how it happened because like from what I've seen, a lot of my team members like they weren't all strength. They weren't like some of them hadn't played Splatoon in like a year, but somehow we all came together and just improved a ton as a team and were able to somehow pull this off. And I don't know how it happened, but I guess it's just like a miracle.
I think it's really exciting that we managed to make it this far, but yeah, I definitely understand that it's a bit unexpected to say the least that Creamed Corn of all teams managed to make it this far. But I hope that now that we've been given the opportunity, we're gonna do something with it or win.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
don't sell yourself short. Like, the storyline you've been telling us, this formation and this growth is very impressive, and you deserve to be here in Division 3 with your results and the progress you've put so far.
I definitely want to thank Gem Squid School because I just made a playlist of like I've watched all of his videos. They're all so good and like he has so much insight into like competitive stuff. I feel like, um, and I oftentimes when I'm talking to my team, I just kind of parrot his advice or just like honestly, that's where I've gotten so much of my competitive knowledge from. What I lack in playing competitive Splatoon, I have in watching Squid School videos.
Hey, you have to start somewhere. Gem is a great resource. Moving a bit on, talking a little bit more about your position in this pool of CCA veteran teams. One of these veteran teams, Death Roll, now sits on your horizon for your quarterfinal match this week. And I wanted to ask how exactly you're preparing for this pivotal match, and what have you learned from your loss to Titans that you're hoping to implement in this match against Death Roll?
So a lot of the some of the map modes that we've played, like that we played against Titans, are actually reappearing in this match against Death Roll. So we're going over all of those that we can, trying to develop strategies and like certain things that we need to focus on better for each sort of map mode combination. Like, who works best on which map modes, whose weapon pool works best. What sort of things do we need to focus on? Where do we need to keep the enemy team out of? And how can we like I guess figure out like make simple plays that we could implement into stuff like that because like we are all new to this, so we're just kind of discovering all this stuff on our own. I'm saying all this stuff and people are probably like, of course, like that's just what you do as a team captain, but like I think it's really cool as someone that's never done any of this stuff before.
I think it's really interesting to see all the plans that are being made, like not just by Asher, but by everyone else. Personally, I'm trying to watch VODs from Death Roll to see how they're playing, what weapons they use, what they try and do best. But I'm hoping that everyone on the team is getting in gear for the next few matches. I'm hoping we make it more than one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Astericus, because you've been doing like a ton of analysis and stuff like that for us recently. And like you don't even get to be put in very much because you do very well on Undercover Brella, but Undercover Brella just isn't what we need but most of the time. But you've been doing so much for like analysis and trying to help everyone else out on the team, and I really want to thank you for that.
I try my best, but yeah, as for the whole weapon situation, once the new update comes out, I'm pretty sure we've all seen the update teaser by now. I will be able to play the video game for once because Think Mine Reslider, not great, but we'll figure it out.
That's good to hear. You still helping with what you can. Tying us back to what we something we talked about last episode of Lux is that scouting, planning, kind of thinking about the game is one of these crucial elements that leads teams to greatness. Good teams play the game better, and great teams think about the game as much as possible. So to see you putting in the time and the resources here just to do these simple scouting steps is really crucial and will lead you far.
I hope we make
Thank
it far.
you.
Thank you very much.
We're very excited to see how this game against Death Roll goes. It's single elimination, right? If we lose this one, we're out.
Yes.
That's very
Quarterfinals.
scary to think about.
Yes.
But we shall triumph, I hope. This is going to age poorly if we don't, so take me up on that, please.
I'll be rooting for you guys, don't worry.
The cream
Thank you.
corn thing.
Creamer Nation.
Creamer Nation, for real.
That's not our hashtag. We probably don't have permission to say that.
Just
Okay, scratch that. No one say that, actually.
if you do it enough, it becomes yours. That's how that works, I think.
We're gonna take it from whatever coffee creamer brand has started that trend. I don't know.
Water's rights are universal. We just use it more than they do. That's how it works.
So you have a bit of a rough path to winning this division, with having to win against both of the division frontrunners of Death Roll and then WPI Grisco Workers Union. Fortunately, none of those people are in this call. For us, yeah. To have a shot at the Division 3 championship title, what are your thoughts on this potentially rough road ahead, or are you just trying to take this one set at a time? And what would you say is your strongest resource for dealing with this situation?
Plans in the long term, not I don't know like really how much of that we can do because this is all just new ground for us. So for now, we're just taking it one game at a time, and I definitely think like yeah, one of our biggest strengths is just the variety that we can have on our team compositions. That's definitely going to be a big help, and then also just like doing as much preparation as we can. I really want to make this first season a great one. That it'd be so awesome.
I would like to highlight our team's resilience. We're all very dedicated to playing the game and being good at it. So I'm happy that a lot of us are willing to continue getting through, even if we get beat down sometimes.
Yes. Regardless of what the next few weeks holds for Cream Crunch specifically, I think this has already been such a great season for you. Trying something new, kind of finding your footing here in the CCA is a great experience. It will lead you and your team far, regardless of the outcome here. So, take of that what you will. That being said, go beat Death Roll and come see us in semis. So
I'm excited for this season, but I'm even more excited for like the seasons to come because I'm gonna be here for a long time.
that's
Hopefully, I don't get
Username
tired of being
match.
cream corn team captain.
Fantastic. Well, kind of with that, the CCA Season 4 is slowly coming to a close with only 3 more weeks of actual league matches. And there always seems to be 2 types of teams during the offseason. The teams that go on hiatus till the next season, and the teams that still practice and compete in other tournaments. So I was just wondering, what type of team will Cream Corns be, and what are your plans for the offseason between seasons 4 and 5?
I'm tired.
Oh.
I want an off season. I want a hiatus, kinda, but maybe occasional practices. Like if we can get everyone together to do that. I know like a lot of people have like big plans for Christmas vacation, so it might be kind of hard. But if we can sneak a few practices in there, I'd be down for that. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be having a lot to do over Christmas vacation.
I think there's a lot to do, but hopefully we will make time for some of those practices. I think it's going to be important to keep our skills sharp, but not too sharp. Everyone kind of wants to relax around now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's perfectly understandable after coming off such a intense weeks during the CCA League. But still, it's good to hear that you still want to push forward. And, Season 5 will eventually be around the corner sometime in the spring. Don't make me start thinking about planning that, though.
Not yet. Too soon. We're
Okay.
we're still in season 4.
Yes.
100 years. 100
Let's take
years
this one
CCA.
season at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, thank you so much for joining us for this exclusive interview. It was wonderful to talk to both of you. Kind of wrapping up, where can we find you and your team on any of the social media platforms?
I have a Twitch channel called Moist Drywall. And I also have a YouTube channel just called Drywall. I don't really upload there, but I do have a playlist with all of our VODs on there if any of the teams want to come spy on us, I guess.
Titans.
I don't really have much other social media, but what about you, Astericus?
I don't really have a lot of social media, but I stopped streaming, but I'm probably going to try and pick that back up at some point. Twitch.tv/AstericusVerde. I'm pretty sure no one will find it, but shoutouts if you do. It's a hide and seek minigame, except Waldo is the most worthless prize you can find.
Maybe I should make a Twitter or something, though. Maybe people want to hear what Drywall Creamed Corn has to say. I don't know.
We can make an official Twitter account. That would be a cool idea. Maybe it wouldn't, but it would be pretty funny, wouldn't it?
Hey, if you do, give the CCA a follow and we'll follow you right back. So,
Okay.
all right. Thank you so much for joining us for this interview.
Thank you guys for having us. It's been so fun, like getting to come up here and talk about our team. Like I'm really proud of everyone, and getting to represent like what we've all worked so hard for this season has been really awesome.
We're gonna go far.
Yes, you are. I'm glad we had the opportunity to have this discussion.
Yeah, thank you all so much.
No, it is time for us to look at the playoff teams, the teams that have made playoffs for each of the divisions, and to quickly just go through the brackets and see what teams are the pivotal teams at play and the matches that are going to occur here. So before we even get started on that, it would not be an episode of the podcast without me spending my valuable time to make some sort of Google sheet for data explanation. I got to put my data science brain to good use. Into that, I made this concoction. So one of the questions I had going into this week was to not look at the teams individually, but to look at universities that are setting their teams and seeing how these programs are stacking up to each other in regards to playoff participation. So I took every single team. I took all the universities that had playoff teams and tried to kind of graph some of it out and to look and to see, which teams have the most in and how that stacks up with their ratio to the teams that participate in the teams that are in playoffs. For the sake of time and brevity at this point, I'm not going to go over this entire sheet, but I did want to mention one very, very important observation, and that being congratulating Penn State University, Virginia Commonwealth University, and the University of Houston for getting every single one of their teams that participated this season into their division playoffs for their respective division. So these are the only universities this season that to have multiple teams participating within the CCA Season 4 and to have all of them making into playoffs. So we weren't counting teams, universities that submitted one team, and that team got in. So PSU and VCU both had all three of their teams get in, while University of Houston had both of their teams get in. It's very exciting to see such strong programs for these universities, these being names that we've mentioned quite a lot within passing for the last year. And it's exciting to see all their teams across all the different levels of divisions here doing well and making playoffs interesting. So thank you for that. One more thing before we get into the brackets. OmaZen, would you mind telling the good people here how exactly playoffs are working in the format we're taking?
Yeah, I would love to. So, a little bit of a reminder of our format. So, single elimination brackets are a best of 9. So, instead of best of 7 we saw during the weeklies groups, we will be doing best of 9s. And due to each division now having 4 groups, there are 3 weeks of playoffs with quarter, semi, and grand finals matches. If you lose in quarterfinals and you go home, otherwise, you have at least 2 more matches with semifinals and then either grand finals or the third place match. So if you make it a little bit far, you might have an extra game to determine that third place match, but otherwise it's all going to be all for first place there.
Indeed. So without further ado, let's start at the bottom and take a look at Division 6. So Division 6 here we have buy one get one free from University of Austin, VC Spirality, again names I literally just said, VGA Red, U of A Accent Splatters, Greasecoat Gators, The Table, Terp Troupe, I think I got that one right this time, CSUDH Irie, and Splatoon Gold, all here within Division 6, and you can see the matchups there on the screen. OmaZen, what are your takeaways at this bracket?
Personally, I think that buy one get one free versus VCU is probably going to be one of the most interesting matches from this week. VCU, if I'm not mistaken, came out on top of a very chaotic Group 4 we saw in Division 6. So to have them go against one of the most consistent teams in Division 6 being buy one get one free, who ended their weeklies with, if I'm not mistaken, 5 set wins, it's going to be really interesting to see how Spirality is able to deal with a force such as buy one get one free, and if they're able to kind of continue to surprise us. Something else I had of note for this week of playoffs is Greasecoat Gators versus Table Terp. Both of these teams, I believe, went 4-1 in their weeklies, so they're both pretty well matched when it just comes down to the points. So seeing them, I guess, just go against an equally matched team will be really interesting, and we may see a Game 9 out of that.
Yes, I definitely agree with you there. Buy one get one free has been an absolute dominant force there in Group 1. Don't remember the exact number of games off the top of my head, but I remember they've dropped very little games there. And VCU Spirality, again, coming from Virginia Commonwealth University, 2 of those big university names I just mentioned have very established programs, so it's going to be exciting to see them duke it out. And then with the second match you mentioned, Grisco Gators and Table Troop have been definitely had their name throughout many of these podcast scripts, causing issues for their opponents in their groups and such. So it's going to be exciting to see them finally duke it out. I think one match that hasn't exactly been decided yet that I'm excited for is the semi match number 1, with the winner of Buy One Get One Free and VCU taking on the winner of UGA Red and U of A Axion Splatters. To talk a little bit about those two teams we haven't covered so far, both those two teams made some very big waves in their divisions, or their groups, with UGA Red being the undefeated team from, I believe it's Group 2, and then U of A Axion Splatters, I believe only having lost one game to, I believe it's Grisco Gators, if I remember correctly. So much things start muddling the waters. But still, I think it's going to be very pivotal. That match is going to be very pivotal and set the pace for whichever team makes it to the grand finals. Both either of those teams being able to stall the others. So it's going to be very exciting to watch and see how this bracket develops over time.
I would agree. Division 6 continuing to prove itself to always be a surprise as a lot of just, I don't know, crazy shenanigans take place.
Indeed. We haven't had the chance to talk to the Division 6 team yet here on the podcast. Honestly, it might be time to maybe consider bringing one in here to have a discussion. But we will save that conversation for later. So let's move on to Division 5 now. I can give you a little bit of a preview here in Division 5. Here you have the High Riders, the High Rollers, Crimson Inc., UNM Splatoon, Bull Sharks, Clark Coy, Towson, Tigerfist, and Champlain Splatoon Cerulean. Again, that's another name I always get mixed up here on the podcast. I hope I got it right there. Fun fact, or pop quiz for you, OmaZen.
Yeah.
What is the only team in the entirety of Season 4 to go completely undefeated in both matches and games so far?
I'm going to take a gamble. Is it the Bull Sharks?
Ooh, good guess, but that is incorrect. Bull Sharks are undefeated in matches. I believe they dropped a few games somewhere.
I see.
Down the line.
Kind of close.
Looking at the chat, Frosty, no, you're not undefeated. Well, I guess you. Whatever. The correct answer is Crimson Inc., who has won every single one of their games in Group 2, sweeping their opponents. This is the only team in the entirety of Season 4 to be completely undefeated in Games 2. So it's going to be very entertaining to see their playoff run as they start to go against different opponents in their division. UNM Splatoon, I believe that was in Group 3, only faltering to the Bull Sharks, but still being a very powerful team that will definitely put up a fight for Crimson Inc. What other matches here are you excited for, OmaZen?
I mean, for me in particular, I'm going to be the most curious about how the Crimson Inc. match goes. I'm mostly looking to see if they're going to continue their streak of at least remaining winners when it comes to the sets. So if they're able to pull off another set win, or if they'll just continue to be undefeated, or if we'll see an upset. UNM Splatoon isn't really anything to take for granted or ignore. If we look back at the rounds that took place in their group, in Group 3 of Division 5, they barely lost in a Game 7 to Bull Sharks. So they're not a team to really ignore here either. So we may see a surprise upset. So that's what I'm going to be personally looking for.
Yes, indeed. I think all of these quarterfinals matches are interesting in unique ways. You have the High Riders versus the High Rollers, which have been, oh my god, debating my existence trying to separate this when writing these scripts in Division 5. Fun fact about the High Rollers is that they technically did lose a game. They're 4-1 from the regular season, but the one game they lost was a forfeit. So while they are technically a second seed team, they are still I believe they did drop some games, but they're still very much a powerhouse for High Rollers to have to deal with here. Going a little bit further down, you have the Bull Sharks and Clark Coy. We've talked about Bull Sharks before here, very powerful team. You mentioned them in the UNM UNMM. Being a little bit of a Worcester bias, I did want to highlight Clark Coy, who have had a little bit of a sleeper season so far. Again, really only coming into their growth here in the last 2 weeks, winning pivotal matches against Undertow Darkfish. Then Taoiseach, Tigerfish, and Champagne Cerulean have been very common names here at the top of Division 5, pushing and kind of getting as far as they can in their groups. It's going to be a very unique match to see there, and it's going to be very interesting to see which of those teams come up on top. So, moving on to Division 4. Now, would you like to give us the quick rundown of the teams here, OmaZen?
Yeah, so this is probably my personal favorite division. Definitely not because there are two Purdue teams here. Regardless of any bias, though, we have the Splatlanders. We've had them on the podcast previously. So they're going to
We
be
have.
going up against Stu from Purdue. We also have Vespa Enter Salmon. Vespa Enter Salmon versus the Goomies in our second match. In our third match, we have UCSD Esports Navy and the PSU Nittany Lionfish team. And then finally, wrapping it up with our fourth match, we have the Seminole Cephalopods Garnet, and they're going up against Bash, another Purdue team. So we have one Purdue team on each side of the bracket going up against fantastic teams with some other great teams as well here. So personally, what I'm looking for here when it comes to interesting and sets to look out for in general is the Splatlanders versus Stu match. When it came to the general season in groups, Splatlanders won all of their sets. However, they did have a solid chunk of 4-2 matches, one of those being against Bash, which they ultimately won. Stu, on the other hand, was kind of a surprise team that was able to squeak their way into playoffs and really kind of just surprise everyone. We talked about it a little bit previously. No one really saw them coming. So Stu has a lot of important matches that they were able to pull off, and I think that they can continue to take that energy that they were able to build up over the course of the season and apply that here into their playoffs match into a potential win. So that's what I'm going to be keeping my eye out for in particular. Anything that speaks to you, Krona?
Yes, 2 matches in particular right now. You have Vespa Enter Salmon versus VCU Goomies. OmaZen, how much do you know about Vespa Enter Salmon here?
I'm going to be honest with you. I unfortunately don't know too much about them.
Well, no worries. I will educate you on Vespa Enters Sandman. The interesting thing here is that Vespa Enters Salmon, my god, is made up of 2 former VCU players, that being Novaden from Ink Black and Kale from VCU Goomies.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
you have this very, very pivotal match where you have basically at least 6 VCU players or 6 past VCU players in the mix here.
That's so funny.
It's going to be quite a show for all of them, everyone in Virginia, with Enter Salmon also being for Virginia Tech. The other match I want to highlight is the ever classic CCA matchup of a UCSD team and a PSU team, that being UCSD Esports Navy versus PSU Nifty Lionfish. So it's always exciting to see these two schools duke it out. Unfortunately, this is not a third place match, as has always been the tradition in Division 1 last season and Booyah Bowl 2 over the summer. Nonetheless, exciting matchups from these these universities' second and third teams, respectively. Anything else here, or would you like to move on?
I think we can move on. That pretty much covers everything.
Yes. Division 4 always being a show to watch. I mean, I say that about all these divisions because it's all so entertaining. Would you like to take it away with Division 3, OmaZen?
Yeah, I'd love to. So for Division 3, we're going to have the GMU Patriots go up against the Sorry, I'm pulling up the list just so I can get that name right. The Stevens Executioners. For match 2, we have the Titans of Alterna Orange versus Griffank. Match 3, we have Death Roll versus Creamed Corn. We were talking about that earlier during our interview. And then finally, we have the WPI Grisco Workers Union versus PSU Lone Rock Sirens. Krona, are there any matches that you found interesting here, barring your own win that we can see?
Well, yeah. Before I say that, what is the unique thing with Division 3 here
What is the
so far, at
unique
least?
thing?
Well, don't overcomplicate it. It's pretty. All of a sudden.
I don't know. I'm sorry. Please.
Division brackets released on Monday,
Yeah.
and since then we've had 3 matches completed, playoff matches completed. Those being a match in Division 3, 2, and 1 respectively.
Oh, that's so clean. How nice.
Yes. So, like you said, WPI Grisco Workers Union played against PSU Lone Rock Sirens last night, with WPI Grisco Workers coming on top 5-1. Well-fought match. They played really well. It was a great set overall. But to go back to your question specifically, there are some more interesting matchups here in the quarterfinals. I think one I'm going to have my eye on is the GMU Patriots versus the Stevens in Executioners. Stevens has kind of been a team that's gone under the radar for most of Division 3, with kind of a week 1 loss, and then they've been slowly kind of regaining that footing. Group 4 especially has kind of been on the back burner because of all the rescheduled matches that happened in the last week. So kind of things have slowly, things very rapidly got into motion for playoffs for that group at the end of reschedule week. So in Execution, Stevens really haven't had much time in the spotlight. And I also believe this is their first playoff run too. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see them push themselves further. GMU Patriots additionally have had quite a wonderful season there in Group 1. It's been very competitive for them and the other teams there, but they have still stood on top. So it's going to be very interesting to see these two teams duke it out. OmaZen, what do you have on your radar here? Anything else?
Yeah, personally, I think we're going to see a creamed corn sweep. I'm just calling it right now. Creamed corn is going to sweep the entirety of Division 3. I'm sorry, Krona, that involves you getting dropped to 3rd place. However, it is a sacrifice I'm personally willing to make for you. And that's all I have to say.
I will not be angry if Cream Corn is able to pull out the W there. They seem like wonderful people, and I'm sure that will be a wonderful match. Division 3 is definitely very entertaining. A lot of the first seeds there are very powerful teams in their own right, so it's going to be wonderful to see it progress. Moving on to Division 2, probably my favorite playoff bracket. We have the H-Town Rebels, Nightfall, Carnegie Soda Fries, Springfield, Ohio. Every time I mention Springfield, I just have to say their logo is generally just the best thing ever. Cal State Long Beach Gold, IBC Diamond Rays, Coastal Squid Surf, and Vermilion Tides. Again, as I previously stated, they already had a match played, that being H-Town Rebels versus Nightfall, which was the first Game 9 match of the season, taking place on Tuesday, with Nightfall coming out on top. OmaZen, do you have anything you have your eyes on here?
Yeah, so what I'm looking out for outside of the potential Nightfall surprise sweep through Division 2 is the Carne Exoda Fries versus Springfield, Ohio match. When we were looking back at the past season, Carne Exoda Fries, for the most part, was able to have a pretty clean sweep through their division, although during the last week, week 5, they did have a Game 7 match, which they were ultimately able to squeak a win out on, although it probably caused maybe a brief concern. However, Springfield, Ohio, on the other hand, also had a pretty clean sweep through their division, although they did lose one match in a similar Game 7 scenario. So overall, that's, in my opinion, going to be a really close game, as we see two teams that had close Game 7s, although otherwise really clean sweeps through their other teams they had to play against so far. So I think we could see it really go either way. It's just going to be something to keep an eye on.
Yes, indeed. I think that match will set the pace for the rest of Division Two playoffs. Whoever wins that match will set themselves really up well as a dominant force here in this bracket. And honestly, it could go either way. Krona and OmaZen has forever been a Division Two team, but they have been doing impressively well in these last couple seasons they played. I believe they made playoffs last season. They were second place in Booyah Bowl 2. I constantly see them playing in the SoCal event, specifically against IBC, nonetheless. But they are very much a team that's been here been around the block and knows kind of what the process is. Springfield, Ohio, as you mentioned, had that rough loss against Cal State Long Beach Gold, but they're nothing to scoff at at the slightest. They might find themselves in an odd position, not being that first seed from their group specifically. That does not mean they're out of this race at any point. I think the other match I have my eye on here is Vermilion Tides versus Coastal Squid Surf. For context, Coastal Squid Surf has only dropped 2 games this entire season, those being the games against Weak Collectible Creatures in Week 4. They very much haven't exactly been formally challenged in their group yet, so I think they're going to start to look to these teams in the bracket for tougher matches. And the first one there being Vermilion Tides, who is coming off of a really rough loss against H-Town Rebels in the reschedule week. So I think it's a very critical match for both these teams, with Vermilion Tides kind of wanting to regain some of that footing they kind of lost in that reschedule week, and Coastal Squid Surf wanting to kind of start testing the waters for the rest of the bracket. I think additionally, I think whatever that semifinal match 2 is between the winner of that match and then CS Long Beach Gold and IBC Diamond Rays will also put on quite an electric show. All 4 of these teams involved in this potential match have great history here in the CCA, and it's very exciting for all these pivotal storylines going on here in Division 2. Anything else here, or should we move on to the premier division here in the CCA?
I think we should just move along and see what Division 1 has in store for us.
That is true. Welcome to Division 1. OmaZen, another pop quiz for you, because I love giving you quizzes for some reason
Thank
right
you.
now. What is the unique thing with Division 1 playoffs as compared to the other divisions?
Yeah, so from what I can tell, there were fewer groups in Division 1, which resulted in us having some interesting bracket shenanigans take place.
That is indeed true. Division 1 only having 2 groups, each supporting 3 teams instead of the normal 2. That being said, each spot in those groups was basically locked in from week 2, with MSU Aries and PSU Blue absolutely dominating their groups. Both teams have only lost a single game this entire season, supporting records of 5-0 and 20-1. So they get a bye round 1. So they are awaiting their players in the semifinals match. Additionally, what is interesting about Division 1, as I said of the previous 2 divisions, is that a match has already been played, that being UCSD Gold Esports versus Red Embers. You remember when I said that we would be talking about Red Embers again? Well, here we are. Red Embers playing, literally this was a Monday night match that DRF was able to stream here on the CCA, and what a set it was, and an absolutely electrifying set, with UCSD unfortunately not coming right up, with UCSD unfortunately kind of losing the momentum there at the end. But nothing to scoff at for either of these teams. UCSD put on quite a show here, and it's good to see them have a somewhat of a playoff run here, despite the fact that they've kind of been in this limbo state for most of the season. Red Embers now has to go off and face PSU Blue in the semifinals. So you had that classic clash of blue and red. OmaZen, would you like to cover a little bit about the other match there? The VCU and
The VCU Inkblack? Yeah.
Yes.
So when it comes to VCU Inkblack, they are a pretty well-known team, at least increasingly over the past several months in the wider Splatoon community under Inkblack. And they're taking their collegiate team to the playoffs, as you can all see here, up against EAUCD. Banana Split, I believe, if I got that right.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
okay,
indeed, the
yes.
previous Division One champion.
Yeah, so Banana Split is going to be in here for an interesting treat. If they are able to get that win off of Ink Black, they're going to have to go up against MSU Aries, which has been, as you were kind of saying earlier, a pretty unstoppable force in the grand scheme of things. The only uh, losses or stumbles they've had in any way, shape, or form, not even set wise, has been from just DCs, as I see Arbiter mentioning that off on our chat on the side.
Yeah,
Um,
against VCU Ink Black,
yeah.
nonetheless. I
So
believe it was Rainmaker Gorge.
yeah,
Sorry.
no, that's definitely something worth noting too. So if Inkblack's, on the other hand, is able to get the win, they are going to be in a rather interesting spot too, as they're going to be having a rematch, essentially, up against MSU Aries, and they'll have to see if they can pull off any notable wins there. Personally, though, when it comes to Division One as a whole, I'm crossing my fingers for an MSU Aries versus PSU Blue face-off. It's, I don't know, two kind of fan favorite teams, two teams that we've seen just dominate the division, and like I think it would just make the battle of the century. Personally, not to gas anyone up
Indeed.
too hard, but it would be a very exciting match to see.
I think that's kind of the trend line we've been seeing this season so far. Obviously, as upset could come at any point here, but it's looking very likely that we'll be seeing these teams in the grand final. To comment a little bit more on Banana Split versus Ink Black, these are two teams that made themselves kind of well-known Division One teams last season, with Banana Split winning and VCU coming just short of the playoffs. They've actually faced before. This was in Booyah Bowl 2 in the group stage of that event, where VCU lost to Banana Split 1-2. That being said, both these teams are on very different trajectories at this moment during the season, with Banana Split having a bit of a rougher season than Ink Black. They have won and they got into the playoffs, obviously, but they've had some rough sets in the first few weeks of the league and kind of have started to bounce back a little bit. Well, Ink Black has more or less been on this trend line of just always kind of improving and positive growth here, taking pivotal matches off Old Bay Brigade and Night Sharks. So I think this is going to be honestly one of the most electrifying sets this entire Division One. I mean, again, we just had 2 Game 7 matches in reschedule week, and here we are with having an amazing quarterfinal set already played and one right on the line. It is fantastic. It is a great time to be a Division One CCA fan, as there's just so much going on. So anything can really happen at this point, and it's going to be fascinating to see what happens and turns out here in Division One.
Yeah, I'll be looking for that too, and I hope everyone else is sure to check out that. And on that note, I think we should head off to our closing bit.
As I hate to be the breaker of bad news, but there will be no podcast episode next week due to the Thanksgiving break. Additionally, the semifinals deadline's pushed back, so there won't be as much to cover. However, that does mean that the next episode, that being in 2 weeks' time, we will be covering both the quarterfinals and the semifinals matches, and then prepping everyone up for the division grand finals weekend. So there's going to be quite a lot to talk about there. So we look forward to you joining us next time for the podcast. As for the CCA, we do have streams this weekend, with streams currently confirmed for Saturday and Sunday. We could always maybe find a pop-up stream from a community streamer, or maybe a last-minute stream up here on the stream schedule. As for the ones that are currently confirmed, Saturday night at 9 p.m. EST, we have the Division II pivotal match of Springfield, Ohio versus Cardinal Exotic happening. And then on Sunday night at 7 p.m. EST, we have the Division V Champaign Splatoon Cerulean versus Townsend Tigerfish, which is then followed by 8 p.m. EST with the Division IV electrifying match of VCU Goomies versus Vespa Enter Salmon, and then capped off with 9 p.m. EST, Division II's Cal State Gold versus IVC Diamond Rays. So a fantastic stream schedule we have lined for this weekend. We really hope you can tune in to some of these fantastic matches that are going to occur. So now that we're reaching the first episode of the podcast go over 100 minutes, OmaZen, where can the good people here find you?
Yeah, really great that we were able to hit that big number, 100. Let's go.
Yippee.
Everyone, you can find me on Twitter under at OmaZen_monkey. And on Twitch, you can find me there as OmaZen. And Chrono, what about you? Where can the people find you?
You can find me at Twitter at comrade_corona. Indeed. So thank you all for joining us here tonight. We really appreciate the audience for such a long episode. We hope that it was very informative for you. So see everyone in 2 weeks.